Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of Shonen and Chill, the first episode of 2021. We did it. We're in the
We
whole
did it.
brand new year. We survived 2020.
Yep. Happy New Year to everyone.
Happy New Year indeed. And of course, you're here with Zenrotto and Oceans.
Hi.
They get very upset when I don't introduce you, man. They don't like it.
I think they're just trying to keep I think they're kind of trying to pin down our chemistry here, right? They're trying to understand what's going on here.
Okay.
Like what's the dynamic, right? Like what
Right.
is the
Okay.
dynamic?
That's
All
fair.
right. Maybe we ought to keep it ambiguous.
Yeah, I
Gives us
think,
more
well, because, that adds a little bit of our own lore to,
exactly.
right, to the show. And this is also the first week back for Shonen Jump. It had that off week last week, so we, of
Mhm.
course, had our Q&A episode, and then we had a little bit of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. Thankfully, we have good stuff to talk about this week. It's
Yeah,
not
before
that.
we go back to an off week next week,
Yeah.
we'll have to figure
And
out how
we'll
we
go ahead
handle
and
that.
say this now before we inevitably devolve into slandering it later. Congratulations to One Piece for 1,000 chapters.
Yes, congratulations. That is a big, big feat in an era where everything kind of either goes terrible before it reaches anywhere near those chapters or it gets canceled. So for One Piece to still be running and still be that popular, that's a feat even I can't ignore. Like massive, massive congrats to the series and to everyone working on it. And of course, happy for everyone who enjoys it. Like, can you imagine? Can you imagine your favorite manga having 1,000 chapters to dig into?
I
That must be
honestly cannot. It
amazing.
must be crazy. I can't
Yeah.
imagine reading it like now as a fan reading chapter 1000 and then going
hmm
back to chapter 1 and looking at it. It must be totally different.
Oh my god, yeah. Like that must be incredible. But yeah, I think this is the only time we'll mention it positively. But
Yes, because neither of us read it, so we're not going to actually talk about it in our overview.
yes,
So,
but because
uh,
we've mentioned it, I can put it in the thumbnail. Let's
that's
go.
true. Perfect. See, it all works out.
Sorry, dear viewer, you have been duped.
You've been clickbaited to watching episode 12. So let's go ahead and jump in. What's your top 3 this week?
uh, at number one, we have Jujutsu Kaisen, which is incredibly surprising. At number two, we have My Hero Academia, and at number three, we have Undead Unluck. What about you, my guy?
I also had Jujutsu Kaisen as number 1 and My Hero Academia as number 2. Big shock there to
Uh,
everybody. And my number 3 was Dr. Stone.
okay, so we're both not really creating that many upsets here.
No, I mean, it is what it is. Before we jump into the number 3s, I did want to say there is this neat little thing made by the creator of Food Wars that's called
Mm.
Shokugeki no Sanji. That the
Mm-hmm.
second chapter of it has come out after the first one came out all the way back in October last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was good. I actually like it. It's a One Piece thing. It's just about Sanji cooking shit, but it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, I find myself often liking One Piece extra stuff that isn't drawn in like One Piece's original art style, just because I don't vibe with that art style very
Yeah, I'm
much.
not a big fan of the One Piece general style, but like
Mm-hmm.
the premise is cool. So when I see it in an art style that I like and they're doing stuff, I'm like, oh hey, this is
Yeah.
pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Yeah. So what do we want to get started with?
let's
What's our
uh let's talk about Undead Unluck and then we'll go into the big two.
okay? The big two.
Yeah.
Um, okay, Undead Unluck caught me completely by surprise this week because it was like weirdly emotional. Like, Andy's and Victor's whole story with Jui or however you want to pronounce it was like kind of touching. Like not in the way where I'm like bawling my eyes out, but where I was like, huh, like this is nice. And then of course you have Victor's panel spread where he's like, what kind of I want to kill her because I know her obsession is plunging her deeper and deeper into suffering, and this is all I can do. What kind of man would watch the woman he loves suffer for longer than she needs to? And I'm like, you know what? That is more that is the kind of quote I would not have expected from this series going in right at the start.
No.
So, yeah.
Almost certainly not at the start.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I even found myself being kind of endeared at Andy and Shoko kissing. That was actually really sweet. like that
Yeah,
full page
I
thing.
still don't know if I should like that based on how it all started, but it's cute. I
Yeah.
liked it too. I thought it was a pretty interesting chapter this week. Victor actually having a character instead of just being like Andy, but Super Saiyan 4 and evil, was
Mm-hmm.
nice. I like that
Mm-hmm.
because the first time he showed up, it was like it was a pretty neat fight, but that was about it. There was really nothing to it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of worried that that was just gonna be like, oh no, he's losing to his demon half. But it's interesting that Victor isn't really evil. He's just kind of trying to do what he thinks he needs to do. I don't agree with
Mm-hmm.
what he needs to do, at least the way he sees it, but it's nice that they gave him a character. I was very worried he was going to be a nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like he in one chapter he pretty much goes from, as you said, just Super Saiyan evil guy to just a jaded, like old soul who's like, yeah, there is no way of achieving what my lover wants to achieve, but I know she will never stop, and thus I will help in the only way I know how, which is to kill her. And like, that's, as you said, that's a character. That's like a substantive and kind of interesting idea, right? Like it's not Shakespeare, but it's cool.
Yeah, it is nice, and I like the idea that her powers are becoming stronger. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not just like a meteor fell from space on this guy's face anymore. It's a very personalized unlucky event that can
Mm-hmm.
work around people's resistances and powers. Also
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
cool ways I can see them using that in the future.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, just a nice and emotional chapter, I'd say. Like, again, not a whole lot to like dig into, but I feel like with Undead Unluck and with also with Mashle a bit, I struggle to find like the big analytical angles every week, just because it's like it's just good manga, but I can't really find anything else to
Yeah,
dig
and I mean
into.
there really wasn't there's not a ton of like symbolism or whatever in especially in this chapter, but probably in most
Hmm.
of it to begin with, to be honest. It's a lot of it is just like cool character writing, and then you talk
Yeah.
about how nice it is, and then you move on. I am glad that we're
Yeah.
getting out of storybook world. We're actually going to
Yes.
advance the plot next week, so or I
Yes.
guess
Yes.
2 weeks from now, which
Hmm.
is nice.
Yeah, that's for sure. There was something else, but I think it just slipped my mind. Ah, whatever. Maybe I'll remember. Oh
I
no,
guess.
wait, I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
I did I did remember. Regarding like how it started and how that makes like their whole relationship feel weird. I do think though I'm getting more accustomed to like seeing their relationship in like a cuter light, just because those beginning chapters are basically becoming a smaller part of the story with each new chapter, pretty much. Like
Yeah, I can see
with
that.
yeah, with each new chapter, like the percentage of the story that was weird and creepy becomes smaller and smaller. So, I think over time I'm probably gonna cope with it.
That's
But I
fair.
do agree, it's still like on that threshold. But yeah, that's just my little interjection that I just remembered.
And then I also like the page spread at the end where it's like the city inside the book and the book is closing. I don't know. That's just a
Hmm.
cool little piece of art to me. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in general, the art of Undead Unlock is kind of crazy good,
Yeah, it
like
really is.
for a starting manga.
Yeah, I don't know.
Uh,
I don't know about this author if they've done anything before this. I'm guessing no.
I think they've only ever done a one shot that was basically just the first chapter of Undead Unluck.
So it was just like the same thing everyone does, the one shot pilot.
Hmm.
Okay.
I think so. Or maybe I'm mixing something up, but I thought it was that. Because I'm pretty sure I saw like Andy's design a good while before Undead Unlock was announced. So
That's
I'm pretty
fair.
sure he started off with
Normally I
that.
would
Yeah.
look it up, but because I'm pretty sure Jujutsu Kaisen and My Hero Academia are going to take us like 4 hours to get through today, I'm going to say let's just jump right into My Hero.
Okay, bet. Let's jump into My Hero. What did you think?
I really like it. This is kind of the chapter that I was looking for the whole time that this war was
Mm-hmm.
going on, because the longer and longer the war went, the more and more I was like, oh no, he's just gonna give a speech and then he's gonna punch Shigaraki really hard, and everyone's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be like, yeah. But no, that did not happen. Thank God. This chapter is
Mm-hmm.
great. It's one of my favorite chapters for a long time because it's
Mm-hmm.
literally just like, oh my God, everything sucks. Nobody can stop it. The panels of that one hero who just like gives up were
Mm-hmm.
so good. And looking
Yeah.
at Uraraka's face, looking at him, oh my god, so good.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I don't even need to say spoilers because you're watching this, which means you've already read it. But of course, Midnight died in the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
died. That's it. Nothing else happened to
Mm-hmm.
her.
Yep.
Just died.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's a little funny that it's like this page of faces, and I recognize one of, or maybe two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I still get it. It's not for me. It's for the world, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you got Deku on the stretcher, and you got those kids talking about how All Might, or not All Might, Endeavor's career is definitely over because of all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff, which is funny because he deserves it, even though he's being nicer now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know well they said that I'm a little confused because they're like maybe he'll move abroad and they're like with what money? But like I thought Endeavor was rich as hell, but maybe I'm wrong. I thought he was loaded.
I think he's loaded too, but I think the implication is that a lot of that money came from his hero work, and if he stops being a hero, moving over abroad would not be sustainable. I think that's the implication.
Okay. Because I was
Yeah,
like, what the
because
hell? I thought he was super loaded.
I mean, he was so loaded that his own son thinks he bought his mother. So, you know.
And he just was like, you know what? I'm gonna buy you guys a second mansion,
Yeah,
like not that long
exactly.
ago. So, and then of course the chapter ends with Shigaraki getting meat puppeted into breaking out, all for one from the raft or whatever the hell this prison is called.
Tartarus.
Tartarus, that's what it is. Super
Yeah.
prison in the sea,
Mega prison.
ultra doom prison. Yeah, but
This is where we
this was a
put.
really good chapter. I liked a lot of like, because it kind of gave you the hope moments, like with the little girl who is like, I don't want your toy. I just want you to not die. And then
Hmm.
Uraka saves him at the last minute, and Suyu, she's there too, up in the little corner.
Hmm.
And that was nice. And you see Uraka like trying hard and working hard, and you're like, yeah, she's gonna save him. And then it just cuts to this one dude who's like, I there's like a million people screaming, and he just can't do it. And the
Hmm.
absolute look of defeat on her face is so good. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think the tone of this chapter is what really struck me the most. Like I expected this chapter to like before it came out, I expected the chapter after the war arc to kind of be like a lot of Horikoshi's like wrap up chapters where they're just kind of like, here's what happened and here's how the world is reacting to it. Anyway, we're moving on, which like on paper is kind of what this chapter is, but the tone of it is so different. It's so bleak. Like, you know, Uraraka has her little heroic moment, which I'm glad that she gets to do something, you know. But it's immediately, as you said, immediately followed up by a professional adult hero literally just saying, I need a new job. I can't do this anymore. And like just seeing the utter devastation that happened in just that one city, which, you know, obviously has also implications of what do the other places look like that Gigantomachia walked through. Because I think he walked through like 7 major cities
Yep.
and I mean, he's a chunker, so he probably destroyed quite a bit of them. And yeah, I just thought it was a really good way of selling what was lost in this arc. I do agree that the page with all the like hero faces is kind of funny when you think about it, because like as a reader, you kind of look at them and like I am. Some people call me Mister MHA, which I don't know how to feel about, but like, and I only recognize 5 of those.
I
And
recognize Midnight. I recognize the guy who looks like All Might only because I had to be reminded his name was Crust like 4 times or something like that.
Mhm.
I recognize the guy with the Indian headband because that's the dude that Stain beat up, right?
Exactly, that's native.
Right. And I feel like I recognize the guy with the headband that looks like a cheese grater, but I don't know.
Yes, that is a guy we've seen. He was involved in the overhaul arc. I think he's called Mr. Brave. He's the guy who can manipulate his hair. Um, then there is Majestic, which is like the wizard looking guy, which is the guy that tutored Momo during the internships. And he even got to talk this arc. So, you know, he's like
Oh, she's a
already
big
a
deal.
big boy. Yeah, exactly. And I think all you've mentioned all it. There's the guy with the like the lined suit. He's like you know, he has like a bodysuit on with like lines all over. He gets stabbed by a twice clone. That's like all he does. But we do get to see him, so I did recognize him. I did kind of find it funny on Twitter. Like someone I know, Caesar, made a tweet where he just made up all the names and they all sound like actually reasonable. Like it's like, oh no, how could we lose Edgecaller and Doom's Clock? No, and then
Yeah, well,
someone,
there's one guy on there that kind of looks like Edgeshot, but clearly is not him.
yeah.
So I don't
Oh,
know who that guy is.
yeah. Another guy I recognize obviously is Xless, the Cyclops guy, because he's the guy that fucks up on keeping Shigaraki down, and
Oh, great.
who, yeah, and Shigaraki steals his cape.
Not
That's
his,
like
not
the.
his cape.
And to be fair, Shigaraki in the combat suit with that red cape was probably the coolest Shigaraki has looked in the entire manga.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, his design has not always been particularly cool.
Yeah, but I do like that generally Shigaraki has gotten cooler looking as the series has progressed. Like I definitely think his like very first design where he's like in that black overhaul, all lanky and has like the hands just attached to him. I think that's his lamest design.
Oh, by far. I mean, he's
Yeah.
literally in like a spandex onesie covered in hands.
Yeah,
It looks so
exactly.
bad.
Al for one told him he better bring some hands to the fight and he
He was like, okay, I did the thing you asked me to do.
let me pack a couple
To my
just
spare
in case.
hands.
No, like I remember season 1 Shigaraki is so lame.
Yeah.
Like I called him Handyman pretty much up until the overhaul arc where I finally learned his name. So
Yeah, he is super weird and not very cool at all, but he's cool now, so it's fine.
yeah, yeah, like I appreciate his character arc. I mean, I made a fucking 40-minute video on him, so clearly I don't dislike him.
Yeah, that's fair. Um,
Um, and I do think one like fun little thing about this chapter is that at the end, we have all for one puppeteering Shigaraki, and it's like, it's the clearest version of him taking over his body we've seen yet. But ironically, it seems to hint that that is not a permanent state because, like, why would All for One need to break out his original body if he can just live through Shigaraki's body, right?
right,
Like, so to me, ironically, seeing him puppeteer Shigaraki like this is the strongest indication of him not wanting to permanently puppeteer him in the future, or
right.
at the
That
very
makes
least that
sense.
it's not. Yeah, or at the very least, it's not going to be a permanent thing. Maybe it is his plan, which would be dumb, but Jesus,
I want
Muriel was
two
dumb.
bodies.
He too wants extra hands.
He was jealous of all of Shigaraki's hands.
He was like, All Might, I lost last time due to a crucial tactical disadvantage. I need
I
hands.
need four hands.
You may be able to dodge 2 fists, but can you dodge 4? Like All for One looked at like the difference between him and All Might to figure out why he lost, and like his immediate conclusion was his hands are bigger, so I must compensate.
He has larger hands, so I need more hands. So our hand mass is roughly the same.
Who would win, one large hand or 4 small hands? This is just the gorilla versus the billion lions again.
Yeah, is this just who would win, a hand-sized duck or 1,000 hand-sized?
The
What is
1,000
it?
duck-sized hands.
Yeah, 1,000 duck-sized hands.
But yeah, I did like this chapter a lot. I think it's interesting that like we've been complaining about how like high energy this arc has been for so long that it's kind of been exhausting, and now we have the indication that we're probably rushing into the next high energy arc with the prison break. But I'm somehow not worried. Like I feel like a prison break, if anything, would probably be more interesting than this arc was, just because
Yeah,
like.
well, also because there's just not that many heroes that are poised to be able to do anything about it. So I don't
Mhm.
think it's gonna be that long of an arc comparatively to like what's going on right now.
Well,
Um,
I don't know about that because there are a lot of villains in the prison that, might bust out as well and then might need to have like their own chapters and stuff. Like, Stain is almost definitely coming back at this point.
yeah, but
Like,
I don't know that they're just gonna be like, oh, he's out of the prison. All right, now we need a cleanup chapter of like each guy that got. I feel like this is gonna be sort of a transitional one where it's
Hmm.
less its own arc and more that just it's the punctuation mark on what just happened.
Oh yeah,
So,
could be.
the heroes lost basically because all they really got out of it was some of the Liberation Army guys. They got Gigantomachia and they got the corpse of Mr. Compress basically.
Hmm.
Um, and that was it. And they're like, okay, so, we lost 7 cities and all these people died and all these heroes died. And now the jailbreak is also happening. So, like, what
Yeah,
the fuck? Everything's bad.
that's
Um,
true.
yeah, I think it's
But
going to be
yeah,
more an interim thing, but we'll see.
yeah, I could almost imagine it kind of like where this war arc was like the forest invasion, and this prison break is going to be like the hideout raid or the fight all for one versus All Might, like where you have a smaller, more focused but more impactful arc follow a larger arc. Because I
Yeah,
mean that
I
was
could
the
see that.
last time, yeah, because that was the last time we had a paradigm shift of this magnitude. So and I think, even if Prison Break arc ends up being long, I can already see it being more engaging than this one, based pure on the fact that it takes place in a definitive location. Because I
Yes.
think my biggest problem with this, especially the Shigaraki fight, was just it took place in like a Dragon Ball Z wasteland.
Yes, it did.
I was going through Hexamendel's colored chapters recently, which by the way everyone should check out those. They're fantastic. Hexamendel is amazing as a colorist. But like the Shigaraki fight takes place in like the exact same location for like 17 years. It's insane. Like there's nothing but like dirt and the sky.
Yeah, it's just like
Which
rubble. Like there's nothing.
yeah, which is so disappointing because like when this arc was starting, I was like, I want to see Deku fight with Shigaraki in like an abandoned building or something, just something interesting, right?
Well, I
And I
think
feel
the
like
power scale has unfortunately moved out of that realm. I feel like
yeah,
it has to be city destroying chaos and carnage now, or else it's not enough.
that's also fair. But hey, maybe the prison can give us some cool locations again,
That
because
would be nice,
it's
yeah.
yeah, because you're in a floating like not floating, but in a swimming prison in the middle of the ocean, like hopefully it'll be interesting. I don't like if Hori manages to somehow get us again into a wasteland. That's a Toriyama feat right there.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that it's not just, okay, I gotta break myself out of the prison here. I'm gonna put one hand on the wall of it and decay the entire thing. I hope it's like they actually go inside of it to get him out.
One of the cool theories I've seen is that because of course Overhaul is also in that prison, um, and technically he still has his quirk, he just can't use it. So one thing I heard is that, or the one idea that I saw jumped around is that Shigaraki's going to go to prison. He's going to do whatever he needs to do with All for One, which, in my humble opinion, is kill him. Um, and then he's going to nab Overhaul's quirk, and he's going to reform the prison into his own like little fortress.
Ah, that'd be cool.
That'd be super cool. And yeah, just to reiterate, I really want All for One to die because he's getting on my nerves.
Yeah, just feels like there's no reason for him to be here anymore.
His machinations just seem kind of pointless at this point. It's like just how many more times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? Right?
Yeah. I mean, once you take All Might out of the story, it's kind of just like, why is All for One still here? We
Yeah, he's
know
just
he's not the real bad guy, and we're not invested in him as a bad guy.
hmm
Shigaraki has been way more built up, and frankly, I am more interested in him as a character.
hmm
So why the hell is this old corpse still here, pulling strings and doing things?
yeah. But I will say, I think our chances are good because he clearly wants to do something with Shigaraki. He clearly wants to like make him his perfect disciple. Whether that means taking him over or just having him be his servant, I don't know. I definitely think the latter because again, why would he go through all the trouble in like being trying to make Shigaraki grow mentally if all he was going to do was take him over, right?
Right.
But whatever he has planned, I think Shigi has his own plans now because pretty much ever since All for One started being a factor in this last arc, Shiggy has been very unhappy about that. He even tried to decay his spirit that one time. So clearly, Shiggy isn't very happy about that, and I hope that culminates in him killing him because I think that'd be kind of cool.
Now,
Because
if he's does he necessarily have to manipulate Shiggy with the body though? Isn't he like partially in him?
Yeah, he is,
So
but
would killing him even necessarily stop him from trying to meet Puppet Shigaraki?
not necessarily. But then again, is that a conclusion Shigaraki would reach?
I
You
guess.
know, I mean,
Well,
his
I
solution to
mean less
everything.
from like, oh, Shigaraki shouldn't kill him then, and more from like, will Shigaraki killing him finally make him go the fuck away?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It probably won't because the vestiges do seem separate from the main body. But I do think if he kills the main body, All for One's relevance over the plot will fade away into just being the thing Shigaraki struggles with occasionally. Whereas, as long as the main guy is alive, there's always a danger of him fucking with the plot too much, for
That's
my
true.
taste.
Of him showing up and trying to insert himself into the plot that nobody wants him to be in.
God, he's like a fucking grandpa beefing with the friends of his like grandchildren.
Yeah, it's just I don't care. And he's like, Deku's all like, I'm gonna get you, and I'm like, I don't fucking care that you want to get him, man. Fight
Yeah,
Shigaraki. Don't. Uh,
give me the give Shigaraki the punchies.
yeah, if you're gonna punch someone for 90 chapters, make it him instead of.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I thought this chapter was really good. I thought the kids finding Midnight's already cold body was kind of horrific, more than I expected from this, to be honest.
Yeah, that was a lot darker than this thing usually goes.
Yeah, especially because
At
it's
least explicitly, because like My Hero has some dark stuff that it just doesn't show you. Like
yeah,
Aries' whole backstory is super fucked up.
that's true.
But they just don't
That is true.
really show anything of it. They just kind of, little girl has bandages, put two and two together. This is what he did,
Mhm.
but this was them literally finding and weeping over her corpse, which was a lot.
Yeah, that was rough. And also I do like that it's literally the group of like class optimists that finds it's Kirishima and Mina. The latter of which literally a couple of chapters ago assured the others, "Oh no, she'll be fine, don't worry." Which I just think is so bitter. And I hope that that actually means something for these two and isn't just, "Oh, we recovered off screen." Like I hope that we actually get something on them, like how they feel about this because it's so like in contrast to how they have seen the world so far. Like these are kids and they've stumbled over the corpse of one of their like main teachers. And I'm kind of optimistic because Kirishima is a relatively important character, like obviously not nowhere near the Three Stooges, but important enough where he could get some extra characterization. So I hope that that also bleeds over a bit into Mina because I mean, she was fucking ugly crying in that panel. Like
Yes.
we've never seen her like this. So I hope that there's something there and it's not just, some horrific flavor text.
You know what I'd like to see that I don't know if they'll do?
What?
If they use Midnight's death to have a couple of the super irrelevant classmates drop out and just
Oh.
saying they don't want to try to be a hero anymore. Because one, they're not doing anything for the plot anyway, and two, like that would be super fucking just the nail in the coffin for all the kids in the class being like things are gonna go back to normal. If like a bunch of the class was like, I'm not doing this anymore, and now you've got
Yeah.
people that are they don't want to be heroes anymore. They want to quit their jobs, and then you got students who don't want to grow up to be heroes anymore after all this, and I'm about it.
That's true. That's a great idea actually because it also solves one of MHA's most long-standing problems, which is the whole thing with why is the cast so big,
Yeah,
right?
why is the cast so big and you only care about three characters?
Yeah, exactly. That would actually be a good way of doing it. And I mean, hey, you could take someone like Tailman
That's
out
exactly the
and
guy I was thinking of when I suggested this.
yeah, I mean, he literally quit in the sports festival too. So sure, make him quit here as well and replace him with Shinso because
Yep,
he
there you
is
go.
listed to get. We just connected the dots, bro.
I hope that's what happens. I think it would be a very good because like it's a little transparent of just like this character needs to not be here anymore because he's doing nothing, but also
Uh-huh.
it's a good way to like it's a very good world building tool. I feel like if you have some of
Hmm.
these students not just be hopeless optimists anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely agree there. And just because it's something that's like functional to the plot, like transparently, doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. Like I think, the criticism that MHA's class cast has shackled it to kind of having to please people who are fans of random characters while trying to juggle having a more tight like main cast, that discrepancy is a problem. I think that's been around ever since the series started. So, if Hori's solution to it is somewhat transparent, I'm fine with it as long as it's still a solution.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, yeah. Um I don't know if that would happen necessarily because again, one of the big problems that Hori wrote himself into is that every single one of these kids has fans, especially in Japan. Japan goes crazy for the entire class. So, like, taking one of them out of the class, again, none of them are popular to the degree that the main cast is, but it's already the popularity of the class as an entity seems to be around enough to where I could imagine him or at least his editors like thinking twice about that. It's
I suppose, but is there really any functional difference from never drawing them and taking them out of the plot?
that's true, but again, the functional difference is maybe not what people care about. Like if you're a kid or a young adult and you're just casually reading this manga and you have this character that you really like that only pops up sometimes, but you don't really mind too much. You're just like, oh, I like this guy, and then they very transparently leave the story. That might be a disappointment to this hypothetical person, and these hypothetical but somewhat real reader base is what Shonen Jump seems to sometimes be targeting. Like that's what I think about when I see that so many shonen series really struggle with actually definitively killing off characters because they seem to think that every character has fans. And in the Japanese fandom, at least, it seems to be very common that the entire cast of a series has at least some sort of dedicated fan base. Like,
That's
there's
fair.
people in Japan that go crazy over Mineta and Tailman, and it's like, okay, like, do
Shout
to
out to
you.
Araki, just taking people out. He's gone.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what makes Araki so special. He just never cared for any of that nonsense. It's just like, nope, gone. I need you gone.
Yeah, that man killed his first protagonist. He's like, I don't have time for this.
He,
I
he
need
killed
everything to move.
he killed his second protagonist, Deuteragonist, in a pretty brutal way too.
Yeah,
And
he
like,
be killing everybody, which I love about him.
yeah, no, I
It's
really like
great.
it. I also like that he kills people before the final fight. Because like
Yes,
if you
it's
kill
not
a
like
character,
a final boss specialty thing.
yeah, because if you kill someone just in the final fight, you might as well not have killed anyone. Because functionally, the plot for 90% of the story was still unaffected. So I think deaths that happen before you get to the final arc or the final part are always appreciated in my book.
Yep, I can co-sign that. I agree.
Good, good. I like having your cosign. Makes me feel confident. uh, is there anything else on MHA right now?
I don't think so. I think it was, like I said, it's one of my favorite chapters that it's had for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I have one more thing actually. I really like that society does not just immediately crumble, and that we get these kids like being on their phones, like, "Oh man, that Endeavor shit sure sucked. I wonder if he's gonna be okay." Like sort of whimsical, because it feels kind of I don't want to say realistic, but like convincing. It's like,
I'd
yeah,
say it's
people
fairly
who.
realistic because you have, one line that stuck out that made me think of like Jesus Christ. This is literally like how people spread bullshit on the internet. Is the one kid where they're like, ever since he was number two, I still had a feeling something was bad, so I believe everything. Granted, Dabi
Mm-hmm,
actually wasn't lying, but they don't know
mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So, like, seeing them just be like, this confirms my slight biases. I completely agree with all of it. It
Mm-hmm.
was like, damn, that's hitting me a little bit close to home right now.
Yeah, and like just in general, that there seems to be also this sort of whimsical discrepancy between the people who have lived through the horrors that we're seeing in this chapter and the people who only hear about it like online. Where it's like, oh damn, that kind of sucked. I hope Endeavor says something about this tomorrow. And then before that, just before that, you see fucking heroes quitting the job on site
Right.
because of the mental strain. So I really think that's a really neat way of handling that. Like, I just I just need more consequences to pop up before I give a definitive rating for this arc. Because honestly, it's starting to kind of look like the Prison Break arc is almost going to be part of this war
Yeah.
arc. Like it doesn't seem to have a definitive ending, more so just a transition.
Yeah, and I mean
Um,
the prison break being part of just like combining it all under like the umbrella of the societal breakdown saga or whatever um,
mhm.
would make sense because
Yeah.
society's not just going to be like, well, I guess heroes suck and we're never doing it
Mhm.
again just because of Dobby's fucking twit longer, you know? Like it's not enough. But if all of
Regarding
a sudden
Endeavor.
there's yeah, yeah, regarding Endeavor, please read. Um, but if you expand that to oh shit, now there's villains fucking everywhere. So the heroes
Mhm.
caused all these problems and all the villains broke out and they didn't do anything to stop it. Now you've got a more realistic, I think. I don't know, maybe not realistic. I say realistic a lot, and I don't know that that necessarily tracks, but a more reasonable slew of events that could lead to said breakdown. Like it just doesn't seem like it's something that can just happen overnight because of,
Mhm.
an
Yeah.
exposed like Dobby tweeting at him this you with a picture of him beating up baby Shoto. Like it's not going to be enough, you know what I mean?
He caught him in 4K.
Endeavor puts out like a be kind to each other this new year post and he just retweets this you. It's just
uh, okay. Is there any final thoughts?
no, I think that was good. I think I'm
Yeah.
content.
Yeah. If you're listening and you're one of the people who were contributing to that awful midnight interpretation, grow
Oh
up.
god, should we talk about that? I guess we should.
We probably should because it was big enough to cause a stir.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Um, okay, so let me just run it down real quick because I don't think we should spend too much time about this because it's just Um, so Midnight died, and some fucking smooth brains online decided that because she died, you know, on the ground, and because she's a woman, and because she died with people running up to her, that clearly means that she was raped to death. And you had all these fucking children online like, oh my god, that is so dark, this manga, oh my god. It's like, dude, no. And this
Yeah,
is the
I
second time this has happened as well.
it is the second time this has happened. I will say this time is at least vaguely more understandable than the last time. Slightly,
Mm-hmm.
not a lot more, but at
Mm-hmm.
least a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like, what the fuck? Obviously not. This is not. Horikoshi had to take a mental health break after writing Overhaul. He's not writing like subliminal rape to death in his story. It's not a thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It,
And it's like, people always talk how disrespectful and harmful it is when an author just brings in serious topics like that for shock value. Interpreting them as like the definitive message of a fucking kids cartoon in a bid to sound smart to your fucking 14-year-old followers is pretty much not on par, but it's getting there in terms of disrespectfulness towards a topic like this.
yeah,
Because
I
like,
mean, someone brought it up, and I think they had a good point. Was that like it's almost always younger people, and it's almost like what we talked about with how seinen will always throw this kind of stuff in just to be like, ah,
mhm,
is that they don't like they can't comprehend stuff that's not shock value dark.
mhm,
Like if it's implicitly dark or like it's not like the Airy backstory is like awful. It's like the worst thing ever. But like it's not
mhm,
in your face about it, so people don't really talk about it. But that's like the prospect of like, oh, this guy definitely raped Midnight because she's laying on her front. Because there's only two ways you can lay when you fall over and die. You fall on your front or you fall on your back. Either one of
mhm,
those you could interpret as a sexual position, so it's not like that's actual evidence. It's
mhm.
just like kids interpret they look at stuff like that and they want to make it dark and the only thing they can think to make it dark is like sexual violence. That's like the darkest thing they can think of.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I had a lot of dumb interpretations of stuff when I was 14. Like, I'm not gonna fucking play saint over here, but when I was 14, I wasn't on Twitter and wasn't tweeting to an audience of like, 3, 4,000 people, and at that point, you need to be responsible with your words. to a certain extent at least, or you have to at least expect that people push back. And in this case, like it's just so transparently a bid to sound smart and mature and be like, oh, I have extracted this incredibly, you know, mature theme. Look at me, how good I am at interpreting things. It's like that like completely reduces the like terribleness of that entire topic. Like you're using it to sound smarter and it's just gross. It's just nothing but gross. And I don't really care that these are kids because yeah, you're on the internet. You are in front of a public and you can say what you want, but you need to be aware that people will push back. And in this case, this person and these people, because it was like a couple of people going there, they deservedly got a lot of pushback. Like,
Absolutely deserved it. Like, God, can we talk about how gross it is that every time it's a girl character, inevitably these kids fall to like, oh, she had to have been sexually assaulted. Like, nobody would obviously ever say that if like a girl
mm-hmm,
villain took out a guy character.
mm-hmm,
Like, if a girl villain beat Bakugo and he was laying on the ground afterward, they wouldn't be like, so did she rape him? Like,
mm-hmm,
it's gross and like kind of blatantly sexist. Like, and I don't just
mm-hmm.
mean like, oh, you're not doing it for guys. I mean that like, why is your automatic assumption that violence against a female character's natural end result must be sexual violence?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what? She's just doing her job, fighting people. And odds are, when you do that, you probably made some enemies. So that
Mm-hmm.
guy probably, I don't know, maybe she put him in jail before. Or he just wanted to kill a big name hero. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it very unlikely that he was like, oh, yes, good. I stumbled upon this one person in the middle of this battlefield. I'm going to rape her. In the
Yeah,
middle of this active war zone.
it's so dumb. Like the dumbest one part about it is like in the panel you can see him walk up to her activating his quirk.
Yeah, like it looks like it's like he's got energy all over his hands, like he's about to shoot her, like with a key blast or whatever. He's
Yeah,
not, and
like
then I'm pretty sure in the panel where she's like shown to be laying down on the ground that he was like
mhm.
obviously was evidence. I'm pretty sure she's bleeding from her back, which is where
Yeah,
he would have shot her.
yeah. That's so dumb. And I mean, like the absolute grossest one to me personally was the person that was like, "Oh, she's like the sexual hero, so it makes sense." And it's
Oh
like,
yeah, that was like evidence that
yeah.
obviously someone would rape her because she's the sex hero.
And it's like that is literally just what were you wearing that night with
Yeah,
extra
it's
step?
yeah, it's the well, why did you dress that way of like rape apologia?
It's so
It's
like
just so
I have no
gross.
patience for something like that, honestly. Like, I saw some people say like, "Oh, you shouldn't be so hard. These are just kids." And it's like, "No, you have to tell them that they're being dumb because otherwise they grow up into dumb adults
Yeah,
whose
I mean
words and
there are
actions
there are
have
definitely
toll."
topics where you can be like, ah, it's just a kid, ignore it. But like this is
That's
not
true.
one of them.
Yeah, I mean that's the whole thing, right? They're talking about this as if it's just, another topic, but it isn't. This is a very, very serious thing, and they need to learn that you need to understand that severity. And
Does
I,
it also come off to you a little bit like a huge desensitization to physical violence?
yeah, I
Because
mean,
like, a lot of people were like, well, they want it to be darker than it really is. And I was like, what do you mean? She's dead. She got fucking murdered.
yeah,
That's still dark. Like,
desensitization in general has been a huge, huge thing throughout the entire 21st century at this point. I mean, pretty much starting from the point the internet became widely available, punctuated by the much grander coverage of war and terror attacks throughout the world. Like I think what we're seeing now to an extent is also the results of a youth that has grown up in a world where you can literally not go a day without hearing about violence and terror. And at some point, I guess you do get desensitized to it.
yeah, like
Doesn't
you
mean
have
you
to
should.
push it to the next thing or something. Because, like, literally, we're talking about a defenseless person getting execution style killed in the back, like,
Mhm,
while talking to her group of students. Like, that's dark. I don't know what to tell you guys.
mhm.
And it's just
Yeah.
it's weird to me that like they always have to push it to something different. Like that's not
Mhm.
enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I mean, one could also probably rope seinen into this and how that has romanticized, or like just, fake mature content that has romanticized the idea of being dark, for the sake of it. You know,
Oh yeah, that
early,
like being darker is inherently better.
yeah. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I saw someone like get upset because I called early Berserk trash, and I needed to specify like Berserk pretty much immediately after its first arc becomes really good and really actually smart at how it handles these things. But that first arc, like the Black Swordsman arc in Berserk, literally, if there is a female character, it's gonna happen to them probably within the next 2 pages, and it's
God.
so bad. And it's that kind of like thinking of mature themes that people seem to often flock to. And again, My Hero is a fucking kids comic.
Yeah,
Like,
that's the thing. And then someone, I remember I was talking about it on Twitter, and someone
mhm.
was like, "So, I mean, you don't think there's any validity to it?" And all I could think to say was that, like, no, I don't think any character in My Hero Academia will be sexually assaulted until she dies from it, ever.
Hmm.
Like, no, of course not. It's so weird to, like, I know that I don't have any stones to throw here about looking for things that aren't there in kids' cartoons, but, like, there's differences between overanalyzing something and trying to insert sex violence into it whenever you possibly can.
Yeah, it's oh my God. Like, yeah, it's gross. It's annoying. It seems to often propagate from like, 14-year-old stan twit, and it's just insanely disappointing. Like, I've always kind of tried to be like, oh, the MHA fandom isn't that bad. Everyone's just making a meme out of it for like clout, but nah. I have to admit, like at this point, it's gotten so bad with these people.
And it's weird
Because
because, like, it's not deep. Like, you're not like, whoa, what a sick
yeah.
fan theory that Midnight was raped to death. Like,
Mhm.
nope, that's not. I.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
too frustrating. Like, I can't even properly word it, but like, you're not like finding some hidden secrets. You're just like inserting really weird, gross fan fiction into what should be kind of a serious and solemn moment.
yeah, it's so dumb, and this shit keeps happening over and over. Like people find these random interpretations. This is obviously like the most uh like the worst example, but like I feel like every week I see someone find something like this, like some darker explanation to something that isn't there, and that is derived from from a conception of darkness that is inherently limited to just shock value. It's oh my God, it's just annoying. It feels like these would be the people that write Dragon Ball Multiverse.
Oh God,
Like,
you're
yeah, like that's
100%
what.
correct. Yeah, because that's like another example. Because you see people talk about it on Twitter all the time, and they're like, "Oh man, this is what Dragon Ball should be like," and it's like, really? You think Dragon Ball should be Bra bisecting Gohan and then talking about how
Mhm,
great it is? Like, there's a difference between being dark in a mature way and using a mature theme like a 12-year-old.
yeah. Uh, yeah, honestly, I don't know what else to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad, it
It's
sucks, stop doing it. Because, like,
yeah.
one time I can laugh about it and, like, meme about it, like the toga thing was
Hmm.
ridiculous and had no
Hmm.
basis in anything, but it's like, ha, you're dumb. But, like, if it's gonna become a trend, we need to have a talk about this, and maybe everybody stops doing it because it's
Yeah,
getting
like
gross and ridiculous.
it's so like there was another thing happening where people were like, or I think one person, this was like somewhat unrelated, was going back to like the whole Endeavor and Dobby thing. And it started out as someone who's really like into Dobby making like a whole thread about how people who like Endeavor are literally
Oh,
as
I
bad as
saw
abusers.
this.
And then it evolved into murder is more justifiable than abuse. And it's like,
Yeah, that like Davi murdering 30 plus people is more understandable than Endeavor abusing his kids.
yeah. That was so big. I saw Big Joel tweet about it.
Did he really? I love
Yes.
Big Joel. Shoutouts to Big Joel.
Shout out to Big
I
Joel. He did
fucking
kind of
love
take the
Big
wrong
Joel,
side
bro.
on this one, but what can we do? He's
Did he
cool. I
really?
love
Did
his
he
music.
defend the guy saying child abuse is worse than murder?
Well, no, I think the side he took was obviously people are going to be more drawn to people like Dabi or Toga because they're the aesthetic kind of evil, whereas Endeavor is a very like humane kind of evil, in the sense of it's something that we can immediately identify as just terrible, whereas we've been desensitized to the idea of villains to the point where we can stand villains because oh they're cool and they have cool powers. I think that was his point.
Well, I can kind of see
Like,
that because I think that like we kind of talked about it earlier with like how Midnight being murdered wasn't dark enough for them. It had to be that she was,
yeah.
assaulted too. I think it kind of goes the other way too, where like when a villain character kills someone, you're just like, yeah, that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Villains kill people, and it doesn't like detract from them in anyone's mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that especially the younger you are, it's a little bit harder to differentiate between like I like this character who does bad things and this character who does bad things is great because I like them.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like Ghetto, but he's awful. He's a terrible person. But like as a character, I think he's a good character. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that, when you start to trend toward the Stan Twit side of things, the Tumblr
Oh,
migrants onto Twitter
yeah.
from that, you start going into this like any character they love is like an ooh sweet baby. Like
Mm-hmm.
I saw people doing it about Junpei, and I was like, I get it, because Junpei is this horrible bullied kid, and he had an awful life, but he's also the magical equivalent of a school shooter,
Mm-hmm.
and like he's not, just a victim, and you can't
Mm-hmm.
look at it as only that way. And I think that the creepy, I don't know what to call it. I don't want to be super insulting because I'm sure there are some people on there that are okay. But like I
Mm-hmm.
think when you get to that like Stan, fan cam Twitter side, they
Mm-hmm.
become incapable of like separating a good character that does awful things with a good person or
Yes.
like an
Yes.
acceptable person. Like that Dobby is in some way justified for doing all of the evil that he does because he suffered too is like a
Mm-hmm.
really reductionist and simplistic teenage take on suffering.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing is, right? Once you start like talking about these fictional characters in the sense of real morals, you kind of dedicate yourself to looking at the whole picture. And once you look at the whole picture, that whole like Dobby being somehow justified falls apart because if you look at it pragmatically, like from the grander perspective, not being immersed in the Todoroki drama, Endeavor ruined 4 people's lives. Dobby ruined possibly 50 if you take the 30 people he killed plus their families.
I mean,
Like that
God,
is
there's a whole scene in when Dobby's like recruiting people where they're like, "What are you doing here, weirdo?" And he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll just fucking kill you all
yeah,
and
yeah.
burn you all to death, the random people."
He killed Snatch, a hero who was just doing his job. He killed him by like having compressed separate half his body and like having the alive half be compressed into a ball together with Dobby's super hot flames.
Yep.
Like that's awful.
Yeah, that's a brutal way to go.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, like twice his death, while it was Hawks that stabbed him, and Hawks is guilty. Like Dobby absolutely orchestrated that. Like he
Oh
was
yeah, Dobby could
absolutely
have saved
fucking
him. He
happy.
absolutely could
Yeah,
have saved him and didn't.
yeah. So
And
like,
then like look at even to compare him with Endeavor is like Endeavor abused Shoto. Okay, Dobby is trying to burn Shoto to death right now on page and kill
yeah,
him just for the
yeah,
crime of his dad liking him more than Dobby. Like,
yeah.
you
And
know,
this is always the thing that I struggle like saying in a way that is like reasonable because I feel like there's almost no way of saying it that sounds reasonable. But there is this weird thing on Twitter, especially, but online in general, where like abuse is kind of treated as this like the end point of like evil. Him being a murderer is whatever, but him being an abuser, bro, no, no way. That's evil. That's too bad. You can't show that. And it's like,
yeah,
and it.
I have seen that too, and it is weird because it's like I don't know. I think it's just too much of like once abuse enters the conversation, everything else is like accepted and understood as like a reasonable end result. Because like
Mhm.
yes, a lot of people who do bad things were probably victims at some point in their lives. Like it happens. Not
Mhm.
everybody, but a lot of them.
Mhm.
Uh, but that doesn't make it okay, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't know, and that's a very mature topic for a group of people that look at a picture of a girl and immediately jump to saying that she was brutally assaulted. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it, it's just like you can't. One doesn't excuse the other. You can have bad things happen to you and still do bad things. And it doesn't,
Yeah.
the fact that bad things happen to you doesn't justify you pushing that badness onto other people.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, I think with topics like abuse being like shown a light on in MHA, it does have a bit of a, what do you call it? A bit of a moral crunch, because you have people reading it who are victims of things like that, and at that point it becomes important to not talk over them and how they feel about this portrayal, right? Because it's their experience that is being re-evoked in a manga, and how they feel about it is obviously their thing and valid and whatnot. But I also think it's very difficult to sometimes differentiate when is there a conversation about this topic that is actually being made from two positions of understanding, and when is it just a like shorthand to say, oh, I am right because I'm right about my opinion on Bakugo because I got bullied. That's the thing that I got in my comment section when I made my Bakugo video. It's like, well, what do I do? I got bullied too when I was a kid. Like, where do we stand? I feel like with a lot of these like real life topics that people are not desensitized to yet, there is this weird idea that you cannot talk about them properly unless you condemn them completely. Unless you start every endeavor sentence with he is awful, he's a terrible person, you can't have an opinion on them. And the neglect of saying that is equal to endorsing that action in real life, which it's so complicated and weird. And you're right, it's just maybe too mature for this fan base and maybe also for this show, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, yes, I get it to an extent. And I kind of think this is what, you when you mentioned Big Joel earlier, that it was kind of what he was getting at is like, real horrible crime is like a TV show. Like people just see that and they don't think twice about it. There are entire massive television shows just about like this woman got brutally shot in her home and then her baby died and we're gonna go get them. We're the cops. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whereas like abuse, especially in a series that has such a young fan base, is like abuse is very real. It's very one, it's widespread. Like a lot of teenagers get abused. And I don't mean that like
Mm-hmm.
they're all getting Todoroki beaten daily or anything like that, but like I wager that if you asked most teenagers, they would at least have one or two times where they think like, yeah, this was probably fucked up by my parents or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a very personal, relatable kind of like violence, and I don't know. I think that it's easy to romanticize killing as like a cool fiction that doesn't happen. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, people don't get murdered. That's just a cool, dope thing that Davi did. Like, there is no such thing as gang violence. He's just cool. But when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to like abuse, it feels more real to the people who are watching it because to them it is either it has been real or they know someone where it's been real or it's more real to them, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of in the same
Yeah.
way where I bet everyone who makes the theories about the girls in My Hero getting sexually assaulted are probably men. Just as a random
Huh.
guess,
Okay.
is it seems to like because to a guy something like that is a bit of a fantasy, like because dudes don't walk down the street and go like, "Oh shit, is that girl following me?" Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't do that. But girls do that all the time. Like a guy
Mm-hmm.
doesn't walk down the street with his cell phone in his hand with 911 dialed to hit the call button on it because a
Mm-hmm.
girl seems to have been following him for too long.
Mm-hmm.
but like girls do, and that's a reality that they live with more than men do. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if that's part of it or what. It's just my assumption is that
Mm-hmm.
people are more inclined to romanticize and aggrandize violence that doesn't feel real to them.
Mm. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I would co-sign that. I think that that is a good way of kind of rounding it up. Like, as I said, I feel like this is one of those topics that we cannot definitively like cover here in this scope. So I guess like the blanket statement is the MHA fandom has a real problem with how it perceives um the violence in the story and how it wishes for it sometimes, and that's kind of gross.
Yes, that's a very good way to put it. It seems almost like they're trying to find it sometimes.
Kind of voyeuristic sometimes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. It's just, yeah. I don't want to harp on it too much more because I feel like we're gonna end up in a feedback loop where
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just
yeah. At
kind
this
of keep
point, we're just kind
rewording
of
it every time and saying it again.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but yeah,
yeah.
it definitely comes off like they're looking for it because they want it to be there, or
Mm-hmm.
because they think it would be better if it was there. And either way, it's just weird and not good.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think that's enough of my hero.
Okay, time to go on to the palate cleanser. We'll talk about Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, goat Kinosen.
Absolutely. Once again, fucking awesome this week.
Yes.
Super good. Ghetto blocked a sniper bullet, which, holy shit, that was so cool. Um, I did not realize that he could, that's a, not to like use power scalar terms because I hate that shit, but like, that's a
Mm-hmm.
feat I was not expecting from like a
Mm-hmm.
guy who up to this point I thought was just like a dude. He
Mm-hmm.
literally like caught a sniper bullet, and that shit was dope as fuck. Um, the whole thing, it was like a battle chapter that also
Mm-hmm.
had crazy expositional reveals.
Yes. Oh my god, I love the introduction of maximum techniques. That is so cool. To like besides the domain, which is like the mastery of structural like building of your cursed energy, to have another technique that's considered the peak, which is just the maximum output of your technique brought to the absolute limits. That's so cool. I love that so much.
Yeah,
And
it's
how
like a good contrast between domains being, very intricate and technical, and like this world of your power at its finest point, whereas maximum techniques are like brute strength. There's not,
Mhm.
it's not super intricate and there's, incantation. It's just everything you've got
Yeah.
being like the opposite. It's almost like reverse and normal curse techniques, like Gojo's
Mhm.
red and blue. Like I love that kind of contrast with these powers.
Yeah, I love that it like recontextualizes Jogo's meteor and Iso's winking as a maximum technique too, because those are very different from their basic abilities. Like Jogo's ability was like, oh, I can create small volcanoes and I can shoot fire, but being able to summon a meteor was kind of, huh? And I like that it's different enough where it feels like a different technique, but it's also kind of just an extension as well. Like, okay, he can control fire. Meteor is kind of out of range, but at the time, I just thought, okay, I guess that's just the progression of having fire. You summon a meteor, cool. So maximum tech, I was super surprised as well because I didn't expect something like that to happen. But now maximum techniques are a really cool introduction. I hope they get explored a bit more. Like, I hope that basically up until Shibuya, this was like the era of domain expansions, and then from now on, we add on to maximum techniques as well, while not forgetting about domain expansions because those are really cool.
Yeah, it's
But yeah.
interesting because the way that we'll still call him Ghetto for now,
Mm-hmm.
talks about it is that it's something that most people don't use. That
Mm-hmm.
it's not like a regular thing because even he says that for a while he thought it was kind of just useless, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just a way to like vomit up his crappy spirits that he didn't want anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then he mentions that it's actually really good. Now I don't know if when he uses it that means that he used up Mahito and he's gone now, because I'm still a little confused as to what he means by
The
a
spirit
way
gets
to
extracted.
recycle. Well, yeah, the technique is extracted, but he can recycle low grade curse spirits. So does this mean that he has idol transfiguration, but Mahito no longer exists,
Yeah,
as
I think
opposed to
that's the
puppeting
implication.
Mahito?
I think that's the I think the implication is he absorbs their curse technique into the curse manipulation, and then he can just do it without having to summon the specific curse that uses it.
And then he can just shoot out the actual energy of the curse itself as this maximum technique that he tried to use before.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Because yeah, the maximum technique he uses is literally just Mahito's body mangled. Like you can see his face inside of it.
Right, and then it like makes a massive crater in the ground. So
Mm-hmm.
anybody that had gotten hit by that would be done.
Mm-hmm. I mean, seems like Kusakabe blocks it. Or
It
like,
looked like he just got him out of the way.
okay, that's also true. But yeah, somehow that is possible. But yeah, now I'm just wondering, is anything we've seen of Gojo his maximum technique? Because if it isn't, I'm gonna scream.
I would assume no. I mean, the closest thing you could get is like purple, but that seems like a technique in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh my god,
What?
maximum limitless.
Yeah, what would maximum limitless even be?
Like that's just straight. Like I want to say a black hole, but that's what blue is.
Yeah, I
So
mean that's essentially what blue is, and then red is an expulsion.
I mean, maybe like purple, but combined with blue, where it's like it's a singularity that destroys matter and grows. Because then you have all of it. You have destruction, you have attraction, and you have well, not repulsion, but growth, like moving outwards.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something like that. But I don't know. At that point, we're just like theorizing with.
Fantasizing about how cool Gojo could yet become.
I could not. I cannot believe Gege made Gojo potentially cooler in a chapter he isn't even
That
mentioned
he's
in.
not in. Yeah, he hasn't been in for a year,
Yeah,
over a year now.
yeah. This chapter came out exactly a year after the one where Gojo gets sealed and Geto shows us his brains.
Right.
Like
Uh,
to the day,
yeah.
actually.
Well, 2 days off, but to the volume or to the issue release.
Yes, to the issue release.
So we should probably talk about that. We get
About
the reveal
Geto.
of we get the reveal of the brain. It was you had brought it up before, and I've seen it on Reddit and around as well that the belief that it is Noritoshi Kamo, the original one,
Mm-hmm.
not the one that is.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being that poor kid, and your family names you after the worst curse user ever.
Yeah, I mean,
Apparently, I read that it's like a Japanese thing that they do where it's like purifying the name or whatever. That like
okay.
if the kid becomes a great sorcerer, he can take the stigma away from the family.
Well, yeah, but also the modern Noritoshi Kamo is a bastard child, so he's already tainted.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Like
That poor
like the
kid.
only reason, yeah, like the only reason he is the heir to the Kamo clan is because he wants to protect his mother, and they were like, "Oh shit, you actually inherited the big technique. Okay, buddy, we're giving you this chance." Like that's the whole thing behind his backstory.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I love this reveal because it seems to reveal that the brain is Noritoshi Kamo, the original one.
Hmm.
But then you think about it more and you're like, no, wait, this actually reveals that it isn't him
That it's
and
not
it's someone
him.
older. Yeah.
Yes, because we've seen Noritashi Kama's face one other time, and it was a while back. The first time he gets mentioned, and it's just sort of in a
Hmm.
panel, and you can't really see anything. It's him, and he's holding an umbrella over his eyes, and the shadow
Hmm.
cuts off the top of his head, so it's just like his nose and his mouth.
Hmm.
So we finally see his full head here, and he has the same brain stitches that Geto has,
Hmm.
which, so now we have the characters thinking that it's actually Noritoshi Kamo, but the actual reveal seems to be that Noritoshi Kamo was also being body jacked by whoever the brain is.
Yes. Yes. And that also kind of implies that it was this brain that created the Death Womb curse paintings.
Yes.
Because because the way they talk about Noritoshi Kamo, it's always like, oh, he's like the dark spot of the Kamo family, like the weird outlier who just did like horrible things during his lifetime that the Kamo family didn't endorse and didn't really seem to culture or nurture beforehand. So, like, that seems odd, doesn't it? So, yeah, like that, and then also, of course, the way. Maga Ghetto says, "Oh, Naruto Shikamo is one of many names," and as you pointed out to me, you know, it's only been 150 years since Kamo. You can't have possessed that many people in the meantime. So
Right.
saying
Even
many
if you have
names,
one person between Kamo and Geto, that's three. That's three
yeah,
names.
yeah. So many names kind of implies that this guy goes back quite a bit further,
And it
which,
also implies that he has absolutely no sentimental connection to the name Noritoshi Kamo, which,
yeah,
and I mean, it's possible he just doesn't. But generally, especially in a series like this, someone would be like, aha, yes, that's actually me. Because it's
mm-hmm,
about, when you have a character like this who's like the creepy body jacker, it's usually about like expanding their lifespan to continue trying to be like the greatest thing, the greatest sorcerer. But like he seems to have absolutely no sentimental attachment to that at all.
mm-hmm,
And it kind of
yeah,
seems like the only reason they're even talking about it is because of the connection to Chozo.
yes,
And that like,
which,
there's no real other reason they would come to the conclusion that it's Noritoshi Kamo or that the brain would care to mention it. Which,
mm-hmm,
if it really was him, you think the brain would at some point want to say something about it.
yeah, yeah, and it's like what one of the things that also kind of stuck out to me is like the way the brain has been speaking so far, like so inquisitively about sorcerers. It does not sound to me like what, the head of a sorcerer family would sound like. Like he almost sounds like an outsider speaking about something he's observing. Oh, sorcerers have these techniques. Oh, how curious, like the sorcerer of this age can do this and that. And it's like I wouldn't have expected Kamo necessarily to speak like that if he's like the head of the Kamo family
You know
and
who
like
else
well
talks like that?
immersed. Who?
Sukuna.
Yeah, now
The
we're getting into the
first
big
the
boy.
first time that he speaks about a sorcerer is when he's fighting Gojo on the roof, and he says
Hmm.
that Jujutsu sorcerers are trouble no matter what age.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I've been kind of proposing ever since this chapter came out that the brain might actually be Sukuna's brain that wandered off and made his own thing. And someone pointed out something interesting to me about like because I also conjoined it with the question of where is the rest of Sukuna's body? Um Sukuna's innate domain is a malevolent shrine. In Japanese is actually contains the characters for feretory or morgue, which this person like explained to me could mean that Sukuna's body is being held inside his own innate domain, but he has no access to it for whatever reason. And that the brain's plan, or Sukuna's plan, or whatever, is to get access to that body and regenerate into his full power. And, you know, summoning things from another world with a stable connection, that sure does sound like the Ten Shadows technique, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Hmm.
Yeah. And like I don't know if this is like what the chances of these are. Like I know the whole morgue or feretory connection is real. Like that is a thing I have noticed while reading up on Sukuna's domain. Like I don't know what the likelihood of that is, but I do want to point out I love how like active fan theories for Jujutsu Kaisen are and how good most of them are. Like most of them don't make me fucking facepalm.
Yeah, they're not like weird, cringy stuff. They are generally really good.
Yeah. Like there's the one that tried to predict the date on which Sukuna is going to be reincarnated as Yuji's birthday, because reincarnate the word reincarnation in Japanese is apparently homophonous with the word for pregnancy, and mysteriously Yuji incarnates Sukuna's first finger exactly 9 months before his birthday.
Hmm.
And they had like a whole breakdown of like how it corresponds with like stages of pregnancy. I'm like, that's kind of creepy, but it's cool. Like it's cool. It's a kind of like interesting, like symbolic shit that even if it doesn't come true, it's just cool to be a part of when you're in the fandom, right?
And it's
But
interesting to note too that the person who proposes the idea of releasing Sukuna is Geto.
mm-hmm.
The Curse family never really brings it up. They just want
Mm-hmm.
to they want curses to be the dominant thing, and they're the ones trying to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's Geto who says, okay, well, if you want that to happen, we need to get rid of Gojo and we need to bring back Sukuna, and that's the only way to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
doesn't Jogo actually object, at least partially, to that? Or say that he doesn't think it's necessary?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, that is what happens. Where
And so,
Jogo's like, "Are you sure that Sukuna's even gonna be our ally?" And Geto's like, "Ah, trust me."
don't worry about it. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
it just seems straight. And, it would also, this might be me stretching, but if that brain is Sukuna's brain or in some way connected to him, it would explain the random feeling of tenderness that he had toward Jogo right before he killed him. When he had that
Yeah.
slight moment of like, be proud of what you've done. And then he's like, why did I
Mm-hmm.
say that? And a lot of people were like, oh, Yuji's making him good by proxy, but I don't think that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It just, Sukuna doesn't seem like someone who's gonna be good because he's inside of a good boy.
Yeah. Because then there's the other piece of the puzzle, which is Uraume, who is just the weirdest.
Yeah,
Because,
have you seen the
like,
theory that she's the girl who had a crush on Yuji?
okay. All
Remember
right.
that chapter
Yes, I do.
where
But
Nobara tells her to come to the diner? People keep
Mhm.
posting that girl's face next to Orome and being like, "That's the same face."
Okay.
I,
I mean,
yeah, it seems a little weird to me, but
to be honest, like Giga's faces are not like the ones I could differentiate like at a distance. But hey,
yeah,
I
they're
mean,
they're
I'm not.
not incredibly distinct. A lot of it comes from like the hairstyle, and I
Mhm.
guess they do have similar haircuts, but not the
Yeah.
same. I don't know. It's just funny to me, but
Yeah.
she is. I think part of that stems from she is so like, what the hell is she?
Yeah, she barely appears, but every time she does, it's so weird. So she is working with Maga Ghetto. We know that because she
Mm-hmm.
was involved in stealing the Curse Womb Death paintings together with Maito.
Mm-hmm.
Because they say that they saw her at the site. Then she like Sukuna knows her to the point where he can recognize her. 1,500 years into his lifespan, and he's confused at seeing her. But then he immediately switches over to saying, "Ah, so how are the plans getting along? And don't
Mm-hmm.
forget your duty," which is also odd. And now here she is trying to fight Choso and like keeping
To
him
protect Ghetto.
protect Ghetto, but also the way she jumped in almost kind of evoked in me the impression that she's also trying to keep him away from Yuji. Because she like perfectly planted herself in between them. And it's like, what? What? Like, I think if anything, Uraume is going to be like the biggest mystery going forward because everything else does seem to kind of line up, but she seems weird.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I think it's a hard sell to say that she's playing Ghetto for Sukuna's benefit if they're not in some way connected.
yeah.
Because we know she's working for Sukuna. We know
Uh
that.
huh.
And it doesn't seem like a fucking eldritch brain that's been taking over prominent evil sorcerers forever would be that easy to trick.
Yeah, yeah. It's just bizarre. And can we also just talk about how fucking terrifying Yuji's memory manipulation ability is?
Yeah, I want to know what that is so bad. I need to know what that is.
Yeah, because like here we have Choso literally willing to risk his life, kill the man he was cooperating with for the last 100 chapters for a guy who doesn't even know him really, past having fought
Also,
with him.
remember that when Choso's having the breakdown, he acknowledges that the memory's fake.
Yeah.
Because he says, like, Yuji, what the hell are you? And then in
Hmm.
this one, he's fully sold that it's his brother.
Yeah.
100%.
That is so scary because that almost makes Yuji's presence in any scene like turn the scene into an unreliable narrator kind of deal. Because like these are just the instances we've seen of this happening, but what if there's more, right? Like what if there's more instances of fake memories having been created? Like later down the line, I could see Akutami playing with this quite a lot. Like it's just insane. And it's insane that it's gone this far. Like we're 134 chapters into the series. It has happened twice. And it literally no one mentions it in the story. Like
Yeah, well,
no
I
one.
think it's, the only time I think they would have a way to pick it out is Toto. Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously what Toto's saying, the fake memory, no one else would know that that's real. Even Yuji says it's not the truth. But
Mm-hmm.
because Toto is so weird, you even have fans of the show being like, "Oh, I thought that was just him being Toto,"
Mm-hmm.
and not giving it any mind until this Chozo thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you've got like Toto was the perfect character to do it on if you wanted to keep it mysterious,
Mm-hmm.
because like
Yeah.
he's just the character that everyone kind of already disregards when he acts weird, even in universe. He does
Yeah.
weird
Yeah.
shit, and they're like, "Whatever, it's Toto.
It's just a guy.
It's just what he does. He's just a weirdo," and so it doesn't shock me at all that none of the characters would push back on that and would just think
Mm-hmm.
it's part of him being, weird.
Yeah. Also, another thing, since we were talking about fan theories earlier, um, someone tweeted at me the panel of Ghetto saying curse womb death paintings are unable to remember their mother but retain memories of their father and are given immense cursed energy. And the next to it, the panel is saying Yuji Itadori has immense cursed energy, and Yuji saying he has no memories of his mother, but he does remember his father. And
Huh.
I was like, no way. That this cannot be. If that's actually the crux to this, that'll be so bizarre. But also, like, if the Brainiac is who controlled Kamo while creating the Curse Room death paintings, and Kamo is credited with being the inventor of the Curse Room death painting technique. If that guy ends up becoming relevant to the point of being the main villain, why shouldn't Yuji have some sort of connection with that technique at the very least, right?
Right. That's.
So many interesting things, right? To
It
go
feels
down.
like every time we get a reveal, it comes with 400 more questions.
Which is
In a good
good.
way, in a good way, not in like a shitty, unexplained way, but just in
Yeah.
a way that like I never feel like I've hit a point in the plot where I'm like, oh, good, I can stop thinking now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just keeps you on your toes continuously. Like there's so much stuff that this just opens up by implication. Because, even if because I saw some people just take the twist at face value and say, no, that's Noritoshi Kamo. And the reason he has stitches is because he was experimenting with the brain technique. And it's like, all right, like, I don't think so, but at this point, you're as smart as me. So, um,
I mean, it's
but
possible. Like there's
yeah,
no way to definitively say or not
exactly.
if it is him. But
Yeah,
I
but
just
even if
think
it is
it would
him,
be very strange to like go out of their way to not show his face at all
mm-hmm,
and specifically cover up the brain unless they were like, because like if it was going to be him, you could have just foreshadowed it by showing like partial stitches on his head or something.
mm-hmm.
The reveal feels bigger, and his detachment to the name Noritoshi Kamo just feels like something more. I don't know.
Yeah, but like even if it were Noritoshi Kamo, that itself already starts quite a few questions because like what's his end game? Just to live forever? Then he wouldn't have to like specifically plan all this shit.
Yeah, and why give a shit about Sukuna?
Why give a shit about Gojo? Because I mean he's been able to evade him, apparently.
Right, like I don't. Gojo didn't even know he existed.
Yeah, I mean actually another thing I thought about it. Wait, because Gojo said that he's the second of the Gojo clan to inherit the Six Eyes together with Limitless.
Right,
That the first guy was during the Edo period, I believe.
the one that fought the Ten Shadows guy.
Exactly. Uh Now if I don't know when the Edo period was, admittedly.
The Edo period is, I believe. Uh, Hang on one second. I'm 90% sure I know when this was. It was like just before the Meiji era, right?
Oh yeah,
It's
1603
to
it starts.
1868. So I think doesn't the Edo period end when they changed the name to Tokyo?
I
Yeah.
think
So
so. Yeah,
the
in
period came to an end
1868.
with the Meiji Restoration. So it's like the Sengoku like war area era.
Okay. Yeah, because what I'm thinking is, what if this being, whatever it was, because the Edo period kind of dismisses Kamo, but if this being was alive during the Edo period, what if it might have suffered like a horrible defeat at the hands of the other Gojo clan master who had the six eyes? And that's why now in this new era, his first order of business is get rid of the new head of the Gojo clan, because he knows that the six eyes cannot be beat unless you do some trickery. Which is why then he went after Gojo's Ghetto's body, because he knew he could give Gojo a moment of weakness by reminding him of his friend.
Yeah, and I mean, he did specifically say that wanting Geto's technique was only half of it,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
other half was the trap for Gojo. Now, Gojo is famous enough that I don't know that he would need to if he's
Mm-hmm.
aware of what's going on in the Jujutsu world in general, which he seems to be. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't know that he would need any prior exposure to it. But at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, if you don't have some sort of plan that would, like, if he wants to just live forever by taking people's bodies, I don't see that being something that Gojo gets invested in stopping.
Mm-hmm.
And if he wants to just do what Geto wanted to do, he doesn't seem to really be making any effort to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And again, the fact that we specifically know what time frame the other Gojo clan head member with the six eyes was from, and that we even know that that happened at all, I don't know, something about that kind of tips me off, right? It seems so random of a detail. And like Jujutsu Kaisen has proven to me at this point that random details are rarely random or details,
Right.
you
And I
know?
mean, it could also explain why Sukuna seems so familiar with the Ten Shadows right offhand.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't
Yeah,
accept, he
could be.
doesn't like, he fights Megami for like 10 seconds and he's like, oh, yeah, this is what I need.
Yeah,
This shit right
exactly.
here is exactly what I need. Granted, the Ten Shadows does not seem to be as rare as Gojo's specific combination, but it does seem rare enough that the Zenin
Well,
family
yeah.
wanted him back like immediately from Toji.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it makes sense. Trying to inherit one rare super ability is obviously going to be more common than trying to inherit two specific rare super abilities at once.
Right.
So, yeah, it's interesting. Just very, very interesting. Oh man, I feel like it's been a long time since I felt like this invested into like fan theorizing for something. Like, I can't remember the last time there was this much like good theorizing going on in the series I was into. Maybe I've
Right.
just been hanging around MHA too long. We're all we're all fan theories are just dog shit.
Where all fan theories are garbage. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, another fun thing is, of course, that we know of a person that Gojo was related to. We know a person that uh, has a lineage for the like a historical person, which is Sugawara no Michizane, which actually might be that Edo ancestor. Now that I think about
Oh,
it,
right from Zero. Right.
yeah, from Zero,
When he mentions it,
Sugawara
Yuta.
no Michizane. Oh no, he's way older than Edo. Oh well, but still, he was. We know that he was at least a ancestor of Gojo and therefore an ancestor of the Gojo clan. And I feel like that's such a weird detail as well. Now, admittedly, it is in the prequel, which one could say might be before Akutami really started like planning the plot, but also the Zero has started being really well integrated with the whole ghetto thing.
Yeah, I
So
mean Zero is canon, so
yeah, so yeah, like some some cool shit.
yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on as always.
Yeah, yeah, because now also like, how is this arc gonna end? Right? Because they've like everyone gathered at one point against Ghetto. Is it going to end with him just curb stomping them all and being like, I don't actually need to fight you, I won, and leaving? And everyone's like, fuck, we have a really strong opponent now, and Gojo's just gone. Like, is it going to be something like that, or are we getting like another proper fight? I don't
I
know.
don't know. I mean, Yuji clearly can't fight anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The dude's done. He's lost an insane amount of blood. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the people here are too much of a threat to him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I don't know that we're gonna get. I think it might just end with. I think Orame might fight Choso, and then we might be done.
Mm-hmm.
Because Choso's
Damn.
kind of the last one that's like the remnants of the maybe not necessarily betrayed, but certainly not used. I guess is a good word. The Curse family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's kind of the last remnants of the little gang that they all kind of joined together to fight Gojo in the tunnel. Um, and obviously Geto doesn't give a shit about him, and he won't join up with Geto after this.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see him getting the axe here in a chapter or two.
Okay.
But I don't think there's going to be another actual fight with Geto, or if there is one, it's just going to be him cleaning him out one after one,
Mm-hmm.
like one after the other, real quick.
Yeah, yeah. I
Because
think that
even
makes sense. I
pre-brain Geto is stronger than any of them. He was the second strongest sorcerer after Gojo.
mm-hmm.
Um, fuck, man. I don't know. I also wonder if we're going to get the reveal that he can use idol transfiguration, because I assume that you're right that he can now.
Yeah, yeah.
That he
Like it
that he
just
took
seems to be
the
implied that.
technique and then just ditched Mahito himself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because that'll be a pretty crazy moment as well.
Yeah. Completely like different question. It just occurred to me. Do you think Maki and Toge are dead
I
or
don't
like
know.
out?
I would feel forced to assume that Maki is dead.
Mm-hmm.
She was fucking ignited by Jogo. I don't know. There's a bunch of characters that could be dead and could be not dead. Even Nobara, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have confirmation that she's still alive. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
safe bet that she is, but it's still not. We don't know. Maki, I would lean toward being dead.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. I need like 3 straight weeks of just wrap up, of just
Yeah.
like explanation for everything now.
What I need is like the page that we got today for MHA with all the dead heroes, but in Jujutsu Kaisen with characters I care about.
With characters I know and care about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh man, that's gonna hurt when we get that page and Nobara is at the top.
Bruh, don't do this to me. I want to believe that she lived, but I wouldn't put it past Akutami to also be like, "Oh, this guy stop. He used his power on her. She might be okay." And then he's like, "No, she's dead."
Yeah, I can imagine that because Akutami seems to be kind of brave with what they do in their story. Like Jujutsu Kaisen is already way, like already just aesthetically way gorier and grungier than what Shonen Jump usually allows. So it's interesting to think about how far Akutami is going to push that, and one way would, of course, be to kill a main character because that's just something you tendentially don't do in Jump.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people say they don't think she'll die because they think it would be good character growth for her to have to
Mm-hmm.
like come to terms with the facial injury, etc. But at the same time, like, can't reverse cursed energy just fix that for her if she was still alive?
I don't know, because I mean, reverse cursed energy, we know it heals and closes wounds. I don't know if it fixes things
Doesn't
like
Yuta
aesthetically.
literally regrow one of Maki's limbs in Zero?
Does he?
I'm 90% sure he like regrows her leg. I haven't read it in a while, but I swear he like, and I mean we know when Sukuna did it, he repaired a giant hole in Yuji's chest and
That's
regrew
true.
a heart
That's
from
true.
nothing.
But I mean, those are also like special kinds of the reverse curse technique, no? Because Yuta has basically the energy of a cursed spirit. Sukuna is a cursed spirit. And so, like, the other person really that you could turn to is either Gojo, which we've never seen use it to heal anyone but himself, I believe, and Yeri, who doesn't seem to be able to do it to that big of an extent, but it's possible, definitely.
Yeah, I mean I definitely could see the, because she's not like vain, but she does talk about her looks and stuff, and it would be interesting to see her, especially because there's that whole dialogue with her in the um, exchange arc where she's fighting the
Mhm.
girl in the broom, and she's like, being a Jujutsu sorcerer is only about skill for guys, and if you're a girl, you have to look pretty and you have to do all this other stuff, and it may be, a real moment of sobering growth for her.
Hmm.
But she might also just be fucking dead.
Yeah, could both happen. So, yeah. Do we have anything else about this chapter? Anything that stuck
Um,
out to you?
no, I don't think so. I do think that uh, keeping Idol Transfiguration but completely getting rid of Mahito might be kind of eh.
Hmm.
Just because Mahito was such a big deal, but I guess Yuji has kind of moved beyond him now.
Hmm.
So I could see it just being like, don't need him anymore for Yuji's growth. He's done all the damage to Yuji he needs to.
Hmm.
But I did like Mahito as a bad guy, so I hope fucking Pinky in the Brain or whoever the hell this guy actually is, if it's Noritoshi Kamo, fine, or whatever. I hope he lives up to Mahito,
Yeah,
because
I mean,
Mahito has been great so far.
we keep calling it MAGA Ghetto, right? But honestly, looking at that mustache on Kamo, seems like he didn't really care much for Donald Trump and went straight to the source, straight to the big man
Well,
himself.
remember that was 150 years ago. So it
Ah,
was the
that's
big
true.
man first, and now he's the modern iteration of the big man.
I see, I see.
Mm-hmm.
So this goes much deeper than manga. This goes
Yeah,
into
this is like you ever seen The
much
Boys?
worse. Yeah, this is much worse slogans that we
Yeah,
probably shouldn't repeat over
this is
here.
Stormfront territory now. This isn't just
Uh,
not just MAGA.
oh no. No wonder he's racist.
No wonder he wanted Geto's body too. That was the third thing. One was we could seal Gojo. Two, it was the curse technique, and three, he was already racist.
He didn't have to he didn't have to use his curse technique, racial bias to like make their minds interlink.
His maximum technique, Jim Crow.
Oh no. Can we say that?
I think so. We'll
Okay,
find
okay.
out when we get demonetized for this later.
Okay, okay. Oh no. No, 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 no. I had a worse one, but I'm not. No.
Can't go any further than that's fair.
Oh no. I'll tell it to you after the show ends.
Okay,
I do
deal.
not feel comfortable saying that on here.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay. All right. So do we want to move on from Jujutsu?
Yeah. Let's see. So what else really stuck out to you this week? I think a lot of chapters this week were kind of, um,
Well, Build King really stuck out to me because this week I didn't even open the chapter.
yeah, I did read it, and to be fair, it actually wasn't as wordy as the other ones, but only because
Hmm.
there were not any panels really where characters had to explain shit. And
Oh,
as soon
okay.
as they did have to explain shit, I'm going to go to the page where there's the guy explaining something, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 21 speech bubbles on one page.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Uh-huh. And it's like I'm trying because I really like Toriko. But this is not Toriko clearly.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I don't know. It was okay. That was it. It wasn't that
Yeah.
great of a chapter. It was fine.
Hmm.
Shit happened in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I've pretty much completely lost interest at this point.
Yeah, it's very slow going. I'm still holding out hope that it becomes good, but I think it's just struggling to find any footing because it just can't explain itself very well.
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's far
Yeah.
too verbose in anything that it does.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. It seems like a lot of these like returning mangaka really do struggle with like combining their old styles with what they think is modern.
Yeah,
Like,
I've noticed that a lot.
mhm.
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I noticed that with like Samurai 8 had some of that shit too, where it was like everything in it was just the shit that was in Naruto. I
Mhm.
think they even have an equivalent to like the Ninja Way or whatever. And
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
this is not that your shit came out in the year 2000, bro. It's been 20 years since then. And I'm going to need you to move forward a little bit. Like it's just not the same.
Hmm. Yeah, so shame about Bill King.
Yeah.
Uh, I did read Mashle this week.
Mashle was weird this week. The last shot is super creepy.
Yeah, like Mashle is writing a really fun, like tonal line where it can be serious, funny, and creepy all in a single chapter.
Yeah, like
Like,
we have. I thought they were really playing up this musician guy to be like a big
mm-hmm,
deal. Now I kind of feel
mm-hmm,
like he's gonna get his shit wrecked by Rain.
mm-hmm.
That's his name, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Rain. Yeah, Rain.
Rain
Okay.
Ames, I
Yeah,
believe.
you're right. And then I also like while they're having this big fight, and like it gets revealed as like the first triple liner, like chosen by God, and then it's like they're playing a fucking board game, and it's always like horrible things about their life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I liked how the board game also kind of vaguely, like at one point I thought they were playing Dungeons and Dragons, which I thought was just the funniest thought to think about, like them in the like medieval fantasy world playing fucking dragons and shit. But yeah, I thought the final panel also was kind of weird because like the third line that he supposedly has like just appears on his face. Is that just a thing that happens?
I don't know, and it's like I also didn't think that they were cracks in your body either when I
Right?
saw them.
Right?
Um, but it's weird because the Dumbledore equivalent, I don't know the headmaster's name, already
Yeah, me
knew
neither.
that Rain had the third line. So
Hmm.
it's not like he just got it. It's
Yeah.
so I don't know if it like appears on your face when you're using enough power or like if that's his equivalent of like Super Saiyan.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, but it was a really like kind of a gross panel because his
Yeah.
skin literally splits open and he just starts bleeding out of that third line.
Which also kind of recontextualizes all the other lines we've seen the characters have. That means they're probably all cracks.
Yeah, they're
Which
all
is
like split skin, which is
which kind of
gross.
makes it even weirder that no one's noticed so far that, or up until recently, that Mash doesn't have natural lines because I'm pretty sure they just sharpied a couple on
Yeah,
him.
it's just like a tattoo under his eye, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you'd think you'd be able to tell, but maybe when it heals over, it just looks like that. It's just
Yeah,
like
it
a
could be. It
scar.
could be.
Because I can't imagine they all have open wounds on their face. Because the third line on Rain is bleeding,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
must they must be healed over. So maybe Mashless just looks like a scab too.
They have the disinfecting magician comes and closes
Yeah,
them for them.
yeah, the Neosporin spell.
Disinfection magic. Very rare, very sought after.
Very powerful spell. I also
Like
like that
this.
in the board game, they're like, oh, this won't predict anything about our lives or whatever. But the only one who had anything positive was Rain's little brother, the dopey guy
Oh.
who doesn't do anything.
Uh-huh.
I also
Uh-huh.
like that Lance's sends him flying into shattering through the wall.
Uh-huh.
Also, I don't know why, but I just like that Mash is sitting holding his knees instead of sitting like any way that's normal.
Mash is just such a fun character in general to like just watch. He's
His
so
pan- the
entertaining.
panel he lands on is literally it's discovered you can't use magic, game over. And that's it.
Mashle is one of those fun series where like even if nothing happens in a chapter, which I mean this chapter definitely was not the case, but even if nothing happens in Mashle, I'm still always having a fun time.
Yeah, Mashl's never. It's one of those series where I can't say I've ever been like blown away by a Mashal chapter, but I've also
Hmm.
never been disappointed. I've always just been like, this is cute. I like this. This is good.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I would say that's a fine quality to have. I'm sure there are some people who don't like that. I've noticed a lot of online manga criticism generally depends on how many like whoa like blowaway moments that it has, and if it doesn't have enough of
Yeah.
those, people don't think it's any good.
Hmm.
But I think that being consistently really good is better than being amazing and then shitty.
Yeah, exactly. Like occasional greatness versus consistent goodness. I'd probably take the consistent goodness
Hmm.
for most things. Like obviously, you know, we all have like our series that we are super attached to, and there we want to see it do as well as it can. So that means we want to see it peak into like greatness or amazingness. But with something like Mashle, where I'm not like super invested, I am very much happy if it just keeps up this quality for its run. Like that'll be
Yeah, I
already
would be
a great
perfectly fine with
feat.
that.
Yeah, that'd already be perfectly fine.
All right, so we haven't
Uh,
talked about this one on the show yet, but people ask us every week. So have you read Phantom Seer yet?
no, I haven't
Bruh, we
because
get comments every week asking us why we
uh,
don't talk about Phantom Seer.
I'm sorry, I'm lazy and I haven't managed to read anything these last couple of weeks aside from reading like 20 chapters of Bleach in one day
All right, I
at one
forgive you
point.
because it was Bleach.
Okay, yeah. Bleach is fun though.
Bleach is
I can
great.
record
I love Bleach.
I can, I can record back that Bleach is very rawness and Kino and swag, and it actually reminds me of Jujutsu Kaisen, which I'm sure usually that statement is the other way around.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes.
Yeah, it has that sort of energy where it kind of has that like dark fantasy crackhead energy again.
Yeah,
Although
that's a good way to put it.
the fantasy in Bleach is maybe a bit less dark, at least for where I'm at right now. Like it's And I think the only thing that's bothering me right now about Bleach, and that's probably going to solve itself just by me continuing, is it feels painfully 2000. Like painfully
I
early
wouldn't say that
2000s.
solves itself. I would say it feels 2000s basically the whole way through.
Oh well. If that's my worst problem with it, it's fine.
I
It's
like
just
it. It's
that
my favorite of the big three, if I'm being honest.
mm,
I like it a lot. It's very stylized. Everyone's got neat, unique powers, and it's very Kino, and that's fine with me.
yeah, I mean, so far I'm having fun. As I said,
Yeah.
the only thing that occasionally bothers me, it's like there's a gag or a joke or like a specific character quirk, like especially regarding Orihime, where I'm like, oh yeah, this was written in 2001.
Yeah, so Bleach. So normally I hate series that do this, but Bleach has quite a bit of fan service in it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I like it so much because normally that's a huge immediate turnoff for me. Is
Mhm.
because like Fire Force, I can't do anything with Fire Force because that one character just I'm so bothered by it that I don't want to deal with it. Bleach
Yeah,
is
yeah.
maybe just as bad, maybe not as bad, but it's pretty bad. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, there's one point. I don't. Are you in the Soul Society yet?
No, 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 no.
No. Okay, so you're not even there yet. So I won't say this one, but there's one point where Ichigo sees a female character just completely nude
Okay.
multiple times, and you don't see it. But there's a whole bunch of running jokes about like Ichigo being too much of a good boy to take advantage of that situation.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of those. Do you know who Yoruichi is just by the osmosis of pop culture?
The cat girl,
Cat
yes,
girl.
who
Yeah, her
her
ultimate
power is
technique.
acting like a cat.
Yeah, her ultimate technique literally turns her into a cat in like a skin
Nice.
tight leotard. So that's a thing. But still has some good girl characters that are not that way. Like Rukia is never really fan serviced or anything like that, and she's pretty dope. So
Well, yeah, Rukia kind of does not fall into that typical 2000s busty anime girl trope.
no,
So
there are plenty of those though.
yeah, I wouldn't have assumed her to fall into that.
No, yeah, Rukia is treated very much like just a normal character, not a
Yeah.
fan service one,
Although
which is nice.
yeah, Kubo definitely seems like a man of the tits variety, that's for sure.
Correct.
Because he always like Orihime looks so funny in some panels because it's like she has like minus ass cheeks, but like fucking gigantonomers
All
on
the
her.
body mass went into the top.
Yeah,
She sucked it out of the bottom to go right into the top.
it looks kind of like when you see the front part of a like transportation truck, but without the transport part attached to it. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, it's just the truck portion of like an 18 wheeler.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing Orihime reminds me of every time I see her.
Oh
Yeah,
god.
like literally just where is it? Don't mock me, internet, by not downloading it. There you go. This is literally Orihime.
You're not wrong. People can see that too in the video, which is nice.
Oh, good. Yeah, because
They
that's
can see
literally
it a
what she
little
looks
bit.
like. Yeah.
me see if I can get that more in oh, I don't think I can. I don't want to take the time to edit, but to put it up because I'm lazy as all hell.
I mean, to be fair, this is like a 2-hour recording, so.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna render for 3 days before I can upload it. But
Mm,
yes, that is basically Orihime.
yeah. But yeah, have we covered everything then today?
um, I think so. We're gonna yell at you to read Doctor Stone and Phantom Seer. Falling behind. Have you
I'm
been keeping
sorry,
up
I
with Sakamoto Days?
no.
It's I'm getting kind of bored with it.
I figured like I didn't read it last week or last time either, and you didn't mention it, so I assumed okay, this one's probably this one's probably
It's
getting to the chop.
it's fine. I think it's just like the funniness of the weirdness of their situation has started to not be funny to me anymore. It's just kind of like the setting. And I think they
Hmm.
haven't really moved on from that yet. Oh, this chapter kind of like reveals that they might soon.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes in the next few weeks. But I'm definitely getting a little bored with it.
Hmm. Yeah.
I still liked Magu-chan. It's the only Gog manga I still like still. I said Gog instead of
Hmm.
Gag because I'm trying to pronounce
Gog.
manga the right way. Gog manga.
Hmm.
Um,
Gog.
but I still like it. It's the only one I like. I can't stand Roboco or Cop and Dolphin or any of that stuff. And I still like Mission Yozakura Family. It's a very generic series with very little in it, but it's very sweet, and that's all that I need it to be. So
I mean, God knows we need some sweetness in our lives these days.
yeah, I mean that this series is literally just like this guy has to marry this girl so that her brother doesn't execute him because the spy family's not allowed to kill anyone that's in their family, and they're
Hmm.
very sweet together, and they're a very cute couple, and that's it. It's like Spy Family if it was more cartoony and less real.
Hmm. Okay.
That's about it.
Which is which is also something I still need to get on Spy Family.
Spy Family is great. It's still one of my favorites. Like if I were to rank the ongoing stuff right now, not just like weekly releases, Spy
Hmm.
Family would probably be number two behind JJK.
No, what? Jujutsu Kaisen at number
I
one?
know, weird. I know. I'm breaking a lot
Bro,
of norms for this show by saying that, but
where's Roboko?
well, Roboco is zero. It's actually above. It's like you know how there's S instead of it's like video game ranking goes like S A B C D. Roboco
Exactly.
is the S at the top.
Oh, for shit.
Yeah, correct. I can't stand Roboco, dude. It's not funny. I don't know. Maybe it's just like Japanese humor is different. I don't know. I don't find it funny at all. Your tweet today that it's like the Family Guy of manga is 100% correct.
It's literally just that. Like today I saw someone again posting about how it like its big gag this new chapter or one of the big gags was it just saying, "Oh no, Chainsaw Man just ended." And it's like that is not writing. You are
That's
just commenting.
it's just like references aren't jokes unless you make them jokes, and just the
Yeah.
act of referencing something is not a joke. But I still feel like there's a big subset of like I don't know if it's comedy or just like people who in like eat pop culture for breakfast that see any
Hmm.
references to other pop culture and they're like, ah,
Yeah, yeah.
that thing, I know that thing, and so they like it automatically from that. I don't know, but I don't
Yeah.
like Roboco. It's so boring and it's not funny.
Yeah, I was actually before we start recording here, I recorded another like discussion video on the Moro arc with MJ, and I said something there that surprised myself in how smart it sounded because usually I'm a fucking moron, but like you know, homages are fine when the homages are informed by the substance, not when the homages are the substance, right? So like you need to have some actual writing that makes a playing field in which you can make cute references and callbacks to things. But
Right.
if
Yeah,
the
like a
cute references,
referential humor can work, but it can't be what your thing is. I mean, apparently it can because Family Guy is super popular, but like
yeah,
if there's not anything in it other than that, why would I open your manga every week just to skim the pages to find the one joke you make
yeah, like
and then like that's it?
them mentioning fucking Shigaraki every other week doesn't make me want to read it more.
Yeah, or
It,
like the one where like, oh, they sang Lost in Paradise for one panel. It's like, great,
mhm.
neat.
Yeah, uh, I
Yeah, I don't like it. It's not for
Yeah.
me. If you like it, more power to you. Everyone's humor taste is different, but it's that style of humor is just not for me.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Or we...
No, I think that's it. Everybody make sure to put in the comments telling Oceans to read Phantom Seer and Dr. Stone. For next,
and
we're just gonna do this every week until he finally does it. And other than that, I think that is about it. I'm flicking through the list, and A Gravity Boys is ending, apparently. Did you tell me that?
what? I didn't hear you there.
Oh, I said the only other thing is A Gravity Boys is ending, and I can't remember if you told me that.
Oh no, if Gravity Boys has ended, I believe.
Did it? Let me check if this is the last chapter. Let me go and
I
flick all the way
thought
to the
this
end.
was the last.
It
I thought
is
this was the.
the
Yeah.
end. Huh. Okay. Well, A Gravity Boys is over. If you're one of like the 8 people I've ever seen care about that, it's over. Mori King,
No,
I
but
think, is about to be over in a week or two.
oh really? Mori King as well?
Yeah. Well, unless they're going to take the plot in a completely new direction, yes, because the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing was about like this tournament to be the Forest King or whatever, and that is now over.
Mm-hmm.
And they had said they were all going to leave because insects live very short lives,
Mm-hmm.
and so they didn't want to die in front of all of their family and friends and whatever. And then some
Okay.
kind of like Toad from Mario looking dude came out and was like, but you get to make a wish because you won, and I'm pretty sure you're going to wish to not die. And but it didn't reveal what his wish is yet. And there's going to be a time
Okay.
skip to 6 years later in the next chapter.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I assume it's going to just be a wrap up chapter that's like
Mm-hmm.
reveals what his wish was and that everyone's happy and that's it. Um,
Okay.
but I can't imagine there's more to it unless they create a brand new plot for the entire series.
Okay. I see. Okay. In that case, Shonen Jump losing two of its heavy hitters. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah. What are they going to do now
with
without A
a
Gravity Boys and Mori King?
ah man, I feel so bad for everyone who was hyped for a Gravity Boys' penis world arc.
Did A Gravity Boys get canceled or did it end?
I think it got canceled. I don't think it ended because it literally introduced the power system like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Like it
Yeah.
literally introduced the elemental penis powers.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, well, no wonder it got canceled. But if you're a fan of that, sorry, I do hate it when anything other than Samurai 8, I will not cheer on the grave of. Um, or Boruto. If Boruto gets canceled, I'd be pretty happy about that. But that'll never happen because it has Naruto in it. So
Yeah, if Boruto gets canceled, I'm adding every single person I know that enjoys it and with a gif of me dancing on a grave. I don't care.
that's fair. That's fair. I mean, it is like the
Hmm.
worst thing ever. So that's
Yeah,
worth it. I
exactly.
can't believe they stabbed Sasuke. I don't want to get into it. I'm just gonna.
Yes, yes. No slander. We didn't slander One Piece. We're not slandering Boruto. We are pure boys this week.
We are polite, nice boys this week.
It is the new year. We have left the negativity behind,
For at least
and
this week.
for at least this week.
We will be very positive until we have to talk about the next Boruto chapter.
Oh my god. All right. Do we want to wrap it up then?
Yeah, I think we are good to go, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in, as always. And we hope that you guys have a happy new year and stick with us in 2021.
See you guys around. Thank you for sticking with us. Bye bye.